I'm Mahdi Shaheeb Sher. My website is www.shaheeb.com. One of my interests in the world, excuse me, is Iran in the world. I think that the world is dealing with kind of a new Iran in the world. I think that if you look at Iran in the world today, it is very much isolationist and a rogue nation in the world. I think that that's kind of the Iran that we have in the world. It's not so much as a friendly nation, open to the world and kind of participating in the world and the global economy and global politics as an equal partner in the world as a normal country, equal to the rest of the world and equal to other nations in the world. But I think when we look at Iran in the world, it is a rogue nation in the world. It is an isolationist nation. I think its contention is that it is developing nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction. And I think that that's one of the controversial issues about Iran at the moment is that it is developing nuclear weapons. It does have a nuclear weapons program. It has had one for in excess of 20 years. So it does have a very focused intention of developing nuclear weapons. And this, I think, causes some problems in the world because I think with nuclear non-proliferation, there is an obligation, I think, especially by small Arab nations or small Muslim nations in the Middle East who are looking to develop nuclear weapons, but weapons of mass destruction and also nuclear weapons as well. So I think that there is a lot of controversy at the moment with Iran itself because of its serious intentions to develop nuclear weapons. And I think it's primarily those intentions to develop nuclear weapons which places Iran at a difficult position in the world, and especially in the Middle East. Because I think the Middle East is a very sensitive region in the world. It's kind of quite unstable as a region. And for a nation such as Iran to develop nuclear weapons is to create some kind of turmoil and instability in the region, which is already suffering the ill effects of the Iraq War and also the Yemen and Saudi Arabia conflict, and also the Israel conflict, and also the Syria civil war as well. And there's issues with Turkey as well and various other neighbours in the Middle East. So I think that there is a lot of instability at the moment with the Middle East, and I think that's why above the rest of the world, the Middle East in particular is very sensitive to any nation looking to develop nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction. And I think that's why the Middle East is a very sensitive area, especially when it comes to its own interests with energy supplies, with oil supplies and energy supplies, and energy security in the world. I think when we're looking at nations that are developing weapons of mass destruction and nuclear weapons, then we're entering a hostile kind of an area where there is some kind of prospect for further conflict and some kind of instability and discord that's likely to generate further disharmony and disinterest within the region and further conflict and violence. And I think that that's one of the reasons why Iran should show some responsibility in the world. I do have disfavorable opinions about Iran, and I do have disfavorable views about Iran generally as a nation because it is very focused on self-interest. It's very isolationist in the world. It's not very friendly and open to the rest of the world. I think my views about Iran are not very favourable, and I do hold disfavourable views about Iran too, in many areas such as human rights, but also with nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction. There's also issues around Iran's kind of religious tolerance and its religious extremism. It does kind of foster terrorism around the world, which I think is wrong. And I think that nations shouldn't foster terrorism. And I think that nations like Iran who do support terrorism and do foster terrorism is wrong. So I think that Iran should show some kind of honest and open intentions towards the region. I think that it has raised its kind of interest in the Middle East over the past 10 to 15 years with its military forces and its Revolutionary Guard as well. I think Iran's military forces are placed in very strategic areas throughout the Middle East, especially in Iraq and also in Syria as well. So I think Iran does have a heavy presence at the moment in the Middle East, and that is also very contentious, along with its weapons of mass destruction and also its nuclear weapons program. So I think that Iran, unfortunately, is very hostile in the world at the moment with its foreign policy and its domestic interests, including its nuclear weapons programs and its weapons of mass destruction. So I think that Iran should, by all means, should offer some kind of gesture of friendship in the Middle East. It should be more reconciliatory towards its neighbours, and I think it should ease its disputes with Turkey and Saudi Arabia, and maybe Iraq as well, and show some kind of honest regard and intention towards Iraq in particular. I think Iraq is going through a lot of instability with the Iraq war, and I think Iran is taking advantage of that for its own benefit, and that can be kind of misconceived and maybe deceitful as well. So I think Iran should step back perhaps from some of its activities and actions towards Iraq. I think that Iran should show some gestures of friendship towards its neighbours in the Middle East, especially with Iraq, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia. I think those are the three countries which are quite important in the Middle East and are especially important to Iran as well, because I think all those three countries are quite hostile to Iran at the moment. I think Iraq has a history of a 10-year war with Iran, and it does have some contentious issues with Iran. I don't think it's on friendly terms with Iran at the moment, and the same applies with Turkey and Saudi Arabia. So I think these three countries, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey, are in open hostility towards Iran, and Iran, I think, is taking a position where it's ignoring any kind of averture towards peace and stability within the region, and is instead exploring its own interests within the Middle East, especially in regard to Iranian oil and Iran oil and Saudi oil. I think that Iran has a strong influence over the Saudi Arabia royal family and the monarchy there in Saudi Arabia. I think that kings go against the principles of Islam, but I think that with the Saudi royal family, it is now heavily influenced by Iran and the Iran kind of theology, which is can be prone towards a certain amount of religious extremism. So I think that Iran at the moment is quite powerful in the Middle East. I think it controls about 60% of the Middle East oil, which is a significant ownership of the global oil supplies and global distribution and wealth of oil. So I think that Iran is quite influential and powerful at the moment when it comes to global oil supplies and its distribution and wealth. And I think that one of the things that the world should do is perhaps apply some pressure on Iran to seek some kind of a friendship towards the Middle East rather than a hostility towards it. I think that the world should enter into some kind of discourse and some kind of a discussion with Iran, with its intentions towards the Middle East. I think the world should be open and honest with Iran about its intentions with the Middle East and also its weapons of mass destruction and its nuclear weapons program and its nuclear weapons. I think Iran should desist from any further intervention in a nuclear weapons program. I think it should refrain from developing nuclear weapons. I don't think Iran needs nuclear weapons. I don't think many other nations in the Middle East require nuclear weapons. And I think they're quite friendly in not pursuing any interest with nuclear weapons within the Middle East. So I think most Middle Eastern nations are quite sympathetic towards nuclear non-proliferation and do, on the whole, concur with its principles that nuclear weapons are a menace to the world, they are a danger to the world, they should be abandoned at all costs, and there should be no room for nuclear weapons programs in the world, and especially in the Middle East. So I think that this is a positive step with most of the countries in the Middle East. And it should be something that is also followed by Iran as well. I think Iran should also adopt a similar approach to its neighbours in the Middle East, especially Saudi Arabia and maybe Iraq, Jordan, and Syria, and perhaps Turkey as well. With nuclear weapons, it should kind of enter the nuclear non-proliferation treaty, and it should kind of make a strong commitment towards efforts of world peace by abandoning the nuclear weapons and by kind of abandoning weapons of mass destruction as well. And I think that if Iran can show some signs of friendship towards the Middle East, rather than any military aggression, any military hostility or interest in the Middle East, if Iran can kind of contain its oil ambitions in the Middle East and maybe take more of a domestic agenda in Iran, where it's looking at developing its own economic capacity with peaceful intentions in line with the rest of its neighbours, then Iran could be more of a model of a nation in the Middle East. It could be a friendly kind of Iran, which is more stable and constructive in the Middle East, which is friendly towards its neighbours and more peaceful in nature. And I think a peaceful Iran would be very positive for the region. And that's my position on Iran. Thank you very much.